Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the fifth episode of Doom Time. It's been quite a bit overdue since last time I spoke to Spitfire and Napalm, but this time I've got a person very, very dear to me. COZZER has been a moderator in my channel pretty much since the beginning. I think there's not a lot of you that have been subscribed for as long as you have on Twitch, and that goes a really long way. I mean, you guys have seen me go through pretty much the whole transformation. We're going to talk a little bit about that later because I'm quite curious. I think people would like to know what it's like working. I don't want to say working for the Ego Boy because it's not like you guys were employed, but to a certain extent, for me, it felt like you guys were some sort of assistance or help, like almost like the elves for Santa Claus or something like that, right? Because you guys did all the work in the background. You guys made sure that the chat was operating, and I think the best way to introduce you is to say that you are one of my all-time favorite people to talk to. I love seeing how much of a transformation you've made, all the different things that you've also gone through in your life, and it all ties into War Thunder, self-improvement, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So, COZZER, my very first question, and a very simple one, is if you had to choose one game, one single player and one online, which ones do you think are your favorite?
Thank you very much for having me on. It does mean a lot. It's been a real good journey over the past 7 years or however long. See, that's a hard game. It's a hard choice because growing up, I've always been playing games. But for single player and multiplayer, I'm just gonna have to say Halo Reach. Like that was my childhood. Came out when I was 10, 11. Played it all the way till I was like 13, and since MTC came out on PC, I was playing it as well. But that must be my all-time favorite game.
That's probably the game also that got you into the whole gaming spirit, right? That sort of pulled you in, and it was like it's tough unplugging, right? Because we're going to talk about this, how difficult it is to go from that, gaming and addiction and being in this virtual world and then unplugging. But frankly, I think all of us have these positive memories of those first games, right?
Yeah. And in actual fact, no, it's not. It's not that game that sucked me in. The game that sucked me in was actually the first Halo when I was 4 years old, sitting on my dad's lap playing Halo Combat Evolved, playing Call of Duty 2. Like that's what sucked me in, and then I started playing on on the Xbox, early Call of Duties, early Halos, a couple of racing games as well. I can't remember what they were. It weren't one of the big, massive ones that I can remember. Although I can remember Rally on the PC. There's a specific Ford Focus that I always used to drive. And I would say perhaps in 2007. Actually, no, it was 2007 because that's when Halo 3 came out, and you start to find a trend that I absolutely big fan of Halo. 2007, I got my first 360. Um, Halo 3, I think I had the date of school for that. I'm not too sure. Um,
So
and
you were
and
you
yeah,
were team Xbox, right?
oh yeah, 100%,
That's
100%.
for me. That's very interesting because I was always team PC. Never had a PlayStation until 2020 when I bought a PS4 and
Mm.
I play it maybe occasionally. Just Red Dead Redemption. Recently been playing
Oh
through
yes.
Last of Us just to try to get the whole story-driven games through. But it was JJ, right? My also a person I have to get on the podcast. Um, we would always play with him, and so for me it was. I'd always say I was a PS gamer, but I think there is this essence of having a controller that's just it's better than a mouse. I'm sure for racing games you'd wholeheartedly agree that it's just way better on a controller than it can ever be on a mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, 100%. But it was weird because Dad was very into games, and he still is, sitting there playing World of Warships, I imagine. He had everything, so he had a good computer, and I was actually playing on a steering wheel. It's still upstairs, and every time I go up there, I can see it. But having that experience when I was young sort of sucked me in, and then I got with the Xbox because it was my own thing. I didn't have to ask him to go on the computer because it was always on it. I'd just sit in my room playing it, like
Mm.
no distractions whatsoever, and that was class. And maybe I think I was 13 when I actually got my computer. Um, there's a close family friend that we know. he's very into building his computers. And one Christmas, I asked him to build me one, and he was round within 2 weeks, and he built me my first computer, and that was sort of it. Since then, I've never really gone back to console, and actually, the first game that I downloaded back in 2013, no, sorry, it was 2014, end of 2013, beginning of 2014, was War Thunder. I saw Frankie's video, one of the early ones on arcade, and I can't remember the map name, but loads of mountains, arcades, carnage, and I just downloaded it, and from then I couldn't stop playing, and that was sort of where I got addicted to it, and since my childhood, since Halo sort of dropped off a cliff, War Thunder was the thing that almost picked me back up and reignited my love for games, and yeah, so 2015, 2016, I must have stumbled across you in the Gentleman's Hangar, which is going back a fucking long
Yeah,
time.
this is
Gentleman's Hangar,
before Discord
shit.
even was a thing. Like,
Yeah,
oh wow,
that was class.
yeah,
TeamSpeak, that was brilliant.
it was very
Yeah,
very.
we I just stumbled across the channel and the Squire there as well. I remember actually he doesn't live too far away from me. I was working on a site which is just around the corner from his. We've been meaning to meet up, but we haven't actually done it
Oh,
yet.
sorry, with whom?
Uh, with Squire.
Oh yeah, Squirefly.
Yeah.
He's got a kid
And
now. I mean, it's
has
quite
he?
yeah, it's a shocker for me. I didn't know. I think
Yeah, I
I
didn't
opened
know
up
that.
Tinder, not Tinder. Oh my god, Twitter. Opened up Twitter after I want to say how many years, and one of the first things
Oh,
I
I
noticed
didn't
was
know
like
that.
him with a baby, and I was like, wow, man, like Flight Daily and now Squire. It's like, who's next? Mike Goes Boom
Oh,
probably. Um,
I didn't know that.
yeah,
Yeah, no, that was good. I think it was one of his. We'd all joined in on one of his videos where he had like 20 people in planes, and we were all told to do certain
yeah.
things, and they'd make a cinematic out of it,
Yeah, I think I
and
must
that
have been
was
in one of
where it
those
was
two, but it
done.
was that was what was so special about him is that he had a way to. I could never really do this. I wasn't a fan of, the custom battles, but with Squire's content is he always had a way to bring people together. It was very, a big community.
Definitely.
It was so nice. Um, Speaking of War Thunder, very simple question: do you still play it, and why? As in, yes or no?
Mm,
Doesn't matter. Either way, I want to know
yeah,
where's the
yeah.
outline.
No, no, I've stopped. I stopped, I think 2 or 3 months after you stopped, so this was probably 2020,
Well, I mean, me and stopped.
2019.
It was a on and off thing. I've
Yeah.
only really stopped now. Like October was, although
I,
the video was made with all the footage, so theoretically I don't really know. But it's been probably about a year.
Yeah, I think I've stopped since I was before mum got cancer, so it must have been about 2020, I think. And purely the reason for that is because I didn't find any enjoyment out of it anymore. It just it was bled out, and everything was changing for the worst. I didn't agree. Oh, that was just after they nerfed the rockets on ground RB. That's when I quit because I didn't agree with it. Um, yeah, I just didn't find it fun anymore. I couldn't keep up with the game, and now there's 6 or 7 tiers. In fact, I think there's like 8 now in there.
Oh, I have no idea. But I mean, it's.
I don't know.
I think I did log in one day just to have a look at the tech tree because I was trying to reminisce in the old days. And it's difficult. You can't even find the BFR9 you're looking for because it's in some bracket somewhere with 16 other, copy pasted vehicles. And even if I think even with the amount of gold I still have on the account, I don't even have enough to buy my way to like just one top tier jet now. Like if I wanted to get a MiG-29 just to fly out for fun, just to see if it's, I would actually
Mm,
have to go back to the game
yeah,
and grind, which is it's ridiculous.
yeah. No, I just I lost interest, and since then, I haven't actually found a game to get stuck into. Everything that I try with the boys,
Hmm.
whether it's Call of Duty or something else, FIFA, I can't actually get hooked into it, and I think the nostalgia's worn off, and now I'm starting. I'm starting to realise actually it's not the best use of my time. I'm not enjoying this as much as I used to. So it, for me, it was all about trying to find something that else that I could enjoy when I came home from work, and this is it's been a big change, and so I got into crypto, which lots of people have done, but I've always wanted to do it properly. I've wanted to invest as a pro and know what I'm talking about instead of putting money in and just hoping it goes up. I've actually done research behind what I'm doing, and I've got numbers to justify why I'm doing it. And I tried doing it myself, and I haven't. Well, currently I've got far, but back then, sort of 2021 to the beginning of 2022, I hadn't actually found the niche for it. And last year, during 2022, I have really been working hard at trying to find something that can occupy me. And now I've got something that's brilliant. And the reason why I've got something that is brilliant is because I stumbled across Andrew Tate's university. I know it can be controversial, but
Oh, it definitely
it would
is.
be. Oh yeah, yeah. Like there's no kind of about it. It is controversial, but the people who are calling it a scam, I don't think have actually been there. They have. They've simply just not understood, and they haven't been able to absorb the information there, because there's everything that you could ever want to know is there. It's just, do you have the drive to capture it all?
hmm
Now, because I weren't playing games now, I had nothing else to do, so I sat there reading and reading and reading, and everything started to actually get picked up by my mind, and I've been able to apply something that works, and I can see the progress. And now I can see the progress. It's just a complete snowball effect. Oh, what if I try this? What if I try this? How about if I do this differently? And that's made me realise, well, hang on, like, gaming isn't fun anymore. Let's try self improvement, and that's what I've been doing over the past 6 months, 9 months. It's been great. I've had so much motivation to get shit done. And my views have changed massively towards the world, um, and it's just a. I don't give a shit about anything else that happens. I need to, whatever happens, I need to make sure this works, and I need to work on myself. And I was thinking last night, I'm still playing a game, but instead of playing a game on my computer, I'm playing a game in real life. And I had a conversation with my friend, and he randomly said out of the blue, "Oh, wouldn't it be nice to see your stats?" I was like, actually thinking of it, yeah, it would, because you can see how much you've improved. You can see the things that you can improve on, and you can see the things that you've done well, and actually appreciate how far you've come. And I thought, yeah, actually, over the past 9 months, I've come so far, and I've changed massively. That people should just sit down and just take in what they've done, because people don't. People think that because they've had one bad day, all of a sudden their life is bad, and the world's falling down on top of them. No, it's not. You've had one bad day, and because you've had a bad day doesn't mean that you're doing the wrong thing. In fact, it's the opposite. It means that you're doing the right thing. You learn, and these little steps are building up into something a whole lot bigger. But you've just got to allow the process, allow the time, and just see where it takes you.
I, I'm blown away by how you made the comparison of stats, because I think it's not just, obviously some stats we can't see, right? But
No, of course.
if you're hitting the gym for 6 months, people are going to see your stats, right?
Hmm.
If your bank account goes up, people are going to see your stats. They might not see your crypto portfolio, but there's always stuff that you've got that you can showcase. And I think gaming isn't inherently bad. I think that a lot of the gaming addiction, a lot of the gaming stuff that we've attained, those skill sets can be brought to use. But it's like you said, you have to realize that the life we're playing is a game, right? I don't know if you've noticed it. Like for me, where it switched was, I think it might have been a combination of dating, where I realized, wait a minute,
Hmm.
I'm playing a game, right? I'm in a match. There's all these, women, I guess we could call them the capture the flag or whatever, and it's a free for all, right? It's like a giant Casino Royale or whatever it was called, right? Where all the other dudes are competing for the same prize, and you have to outperform them. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to be the tallest, the prettiest, the strongest, the smartest, right? But the combination of it all and the approach you take and your lineup, right, as we had in War Thunder, and it's gonna lead you there. I was going to ask you, because we went through quite a few different topics. You mentioned, obviously, Andrew Tate. You mentioned the Hustlers University, which, for those who don't know, is Andrew Tate's, I think it's monthly, like 40, 50 quid. And you get,
it's about 50 quid.
Yeah, and you get access to a giant Discord, I assume, with a lot of knowledgeable people, moderators. And I think what it boils down to is that I personally see it as a toolbox, right? Like TikTok, I'm not a fan of it. Instagram, not a fan of it. Social media, not a fan of it. But it's a toolbox. Some people are able to use it, make a living, make bank, right? Some people are able to create something out of it, and others, they just consume and spend time on. So when you mentioned, that there's people who think it's a scam, obviously personally I'm on the, maybe on the 50-50 edge. I think that there is information there to be used. Maybe there's too much information, maybe a lot of it might be useless. You might have to filter through it. But I'd be willing to argue that the info in there, if you focus on one branch, like if you just want to go into dropshipping or e-commerce, or in your case crypto, and you go all in, all out, I don't see how you can't succeed. Wasn't there some quote from somebody that said, like, if you consistently put effort for like 5 years at one thing, there's no way you're not going to succeed, right?
Yeah, I can say who it is, but I have heard that. It's just one of the things. It's a tool. If you've got a hammer, everything that you see is going to be a nail. You've got to have the right tools for the right job, especially when it comes to making a living and trying to earn as much money as you can, because ultimately that's what everyone wants. Okay, we don't go to work for the fun of it. We go to work to make money.
Yep.
Some people aren't happy with that. I'm personally, for me, I'm not happy with that. Okay, so I'm going to try and do everything within my power to get out of the matrix. I don't like using the word because it's linked with that shit. But simple fact of it is, I don't want to be working all my life. I want to be living comfortably. I want to be living in a house, and I want to be able to see my children grow up. I don't want to be out there working away and missing my child or children grow up. I want to be there, and I want to see it happen. And this is the thing. There's so many people in there that think that it's a waste of time, but you see how much progress that they don't make because they just don't find the time. Everyone's got time, and it really annoys me how there's a bias towards being lazy. Everything that you could possibly want is there. You've just got to put in the effort and do the work. And the success rate. So how it works, I got a bit of hair on me. So how it works is you've got tiers. You've got tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and you go through all the courses. They're all videos, and you've got the professors there who are making the videos. And once you've gone through the courses, you've got little tasks that they try and get you to do. And then once you hit the end, that's like the cream. That's what you need. This is the stuff that you need. But before you take the cream, before you take what you want, you've got to go through everything else. And you've got to fully understand that they've had to put in the hard work. And all of this stuff is just little steps, little steps. And then once you get to that final thing, you know what it all means. You can put the puzzle together, and once you've put the puzzle together, that's when you've got what you need. With other areas like Amazon FBA, e-commerce, I don't know anything about because I'm simply not interested in it. Whereas the crypto, there's perhaps 500 people out of, I think it's like 80,000 that have actually gone through and done the work. And the knowledge, the knowledge that that group actually has is insane. Like I feel like a tiny fish in a massive pond. It's 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 good to have. It's good to have someone there that you can just talk to, and they're all people. They're all there for the same thing. Um, and they're all on that self improvement journey, and they've always everyone in there. There's a familiar, a similar trait that everyone has is they all start with playing games. They all had this love for gaming and just something occupying their mind, and now they've realised that they've got to get out of it and play the real world and win. That's the point. And I'm not really sure what path that I'm traveling down here, but it's the harder you work, the more you get out of life. If you're happy being a fat slob, cool, whatever. Like it doesn't bother me. But for me personally, I want to level up my skill tree as much as I can, and that's just how I want to play. Yeah, that's how I want to play my life. Um, Women, I have no troubles getting. You can't look in this sexy, but um, yeah, no, it's just one of the things.
It's about yeah the skill tree. It's also because you choose which skills you find most important, and
Hmm.
you can choose to not do. I was going to ask you about monk mode. Your opinion on it. Have you tried any of
Okay.
it? Because I've personally got a problem, which is that as I mentioned before, and you said when you have a hammer, everything's a nail. I
Hmm.
find Instagram quite annoying because even though I don't use TikTok, Instagram, even if you open up YouTube these days, it's TikToks are everywhere, and it's unbelievable how quickly it sucks you in, and you're just there swiping.
Oh yeah.
And then I'm thinking, instead of doing this, I'd much rather be playing War Thunder. I feel like I'd get more out of it than from just mindlessly swiping. And then I think how I've already gone to the point where I realise how playing War Thunder is useless, and yet it's better than the thing I'm doing now, and it's this loop that you get stuck into. And when you're saying that the harder you work, the more you get out of life, right? It's what you give is what you get. There is this Newton's law in action there, and it's so easy, I think, and so difficult when you relapse, right? When you fall back into your old habits, when you get out of the rut, maybe 1, 2, 3 months, and then something happens and it resets you. Has that happened to you? Have you had moments where you felt like, when you had a bad day, or maybe a bad week, or maybe a bad
Yeah.
month, where just things are not going your way? How do you deal with it? Like, do you hit the gym? Do you change? What do you do?
Yeah. So it's monk mode itself. I'll talk about monk mode first, and then I'll
I'll give you a bit
what
of a
I
long
like.
question there. I do apologise.
No, that's fine, mate. It's fine. I enjoy these long questions. It makes me think. So to be honest, and I've picked this up with work. Whatever you decide to do, whether it's monk mode or whatever, doesn't matter. If it gets you to the same place and if it works for you, cool. Okay, it's fine. So I've tried it. Personally, it's not really for me. I like I like having the time where I can go see my mates, where I can go see a girl if I want to, where I can really find that time to balance my life, and that is what I do. So weekends, I'm a little bit more relaxed, and I'll allow myself to perhaps go for a walk or go out with my mates or something, and that keeps everything neutral. It doesn't give me too much euphoria. It doesn't give me too much depression, so to say. Trying to find that balance. That's the important thing. If monk mode gives you that balance, cool. If going out with your mates gives you that balance, that's okay too. So it's just about how people manage what they do, what they think, um, and just how they move forward. How they take loss, how they take bad days, and this leads on to the second part of the question. Bad days are good. I used to think of bad days of oh yeah shit. as I was saying earlier, everything's falling down on me, and things are looking shit. I should just quit. No, don't quit. One thing I've learned in this life, I used to quit too much. Must not quit. If you want to do something, you have to go through them bad days, because you simply don't know everything. You can't expect to be an expert and to be the top 1% of that area in your life, because you just don't know it. And you've just got to accept that these bad days are the lesson. That's the thing that you need. You need these bad days, because you sit down, you look back. Okay, that didn't work. Now what can I do that will work? And for example, I want to bring work into play here. So if there's an issue and I'm a brand new apprentice and I don't know what I'm doing, and I've got to go ask about, and I've got to figure out what's wrong. Now I've been doing it for 7 8 years. I know, because I've gone through the bad stages. I've gone through trying to work out what was wrong, and because I've already unlocked that knowledge, I know what I'm doing. But the bad days, it's just sometimes you just got to take a step back and just accept that there's going to be a little bit of drawdown in your emotions. But ultimately, when you take a step back and in fact, I've just come up with a brilliant idea. If you take a step back and, for example, if you dotted how you felt on a graph for 3 years, hoping that it's going to be a slow tick up with a couple drawdowns, and that's all. That's what you want. You aren't going to have a graph that goes all the way up, because it's not how it works. You've got a bit of deviation that you've got to play with, and that's just life. And I think with depression, it's your body talking to you. Listen to what your body's saying, because that's it. If you feel bad, change your diet. Go to the gym. Start drinking filtered water, that I've done recently, and actually it's given me more energy, more motivation. If you're completing goals, if you've got a task list that you can tick off every day, you feel better. Whereas if you aren't doing anything, if you aren't motivated, then you are going to sit there, and ultimately your body's going to be like, look, you need to do something. You're abusing what I am, and yeah, it's just, I suppose with you, with your spell of depression, that you sort of understood that you had to make a change. You had to do something, and that's what you've done. And now you're feeling a lot better because of it. That's just, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it is a slippery slope.
Oh,
100%. I feel
definitely.
like this.
Mm.
I always say, it's easier to go backwards than it is forwards. It's almost like
Hmm.
you're cycling into a headwind. It's tough, but knowing that you're going to get through it around the corner, chances are the headwind might turn into tailwind. You're going to go twice as fast when you get that snowball effect going. But I don't think it's spoken about enough, and it's also one of those things which is so kind of ironic, is because if you look at it, the habits that gamers have, on one hand, they're these, determined machines ready to go and pull consecutive all-nighters, just to grind out some title or get those 10,000 kills for a skin upgrade. But on the other hand, you've got, bad sleeping schedule, porn addiction, bad food, and that side leads to depression. So they're living this duality where I think during the day, they're miserable, and then when they get behind the computer, they get to escape that misery for an even such a small amount of time, spike that dopamine, and it's just this constant, back and forth, polarizing, almost like CPR's being performed on them, and I don't think that's healthy. It's also a question how long it's going to take before we're going to have actual, academic data. People are going to write papers on this, because gaming addictions, haven't really been around for that long. It's been maybe about a decade or so. But it's beautiful for me to have a conversation with you and see that you've had that moment where it's just snapped for you. Because I don't know what it's hard to explain it, right? You wouldn't be able to go back and say, let's say 5 years ago, if I asked you, are you ever going to stop playing War Thunder? You'd probably say, no, I like this game, I'll probably always play it.
Yeah.
right?
I agree.
And if we talk to the guys who still play it today, they probably have the same feeling behind them. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, no, I'll still play it. You know, maybe I won't play it a lot, but I'll still play it. And they're so convinced with it that it really takes a lot. And yeah, some people, it might take, pain, it might take misery, it might take depression, it might take some kind of maniac episode where you just break down and you look at your life and realize, holy crap, I have to start working with the foundation. And you start removing all those bad things, right? Bad habits, and then it starts to get better.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And I think that War Thunder, yeah, it's good for making friends, getting social life. If you aren't getting it from going outside, then you've got to get it from somewhere. And if you're happy sitting on Discord, then cool, whatever. You are slowly finding the stepping stones in actually talking to new people. And this is exactly what I experienced. I never used to go outside. I never used to like talking to people. Now I like it. I enjoy it. I enjoy learning about what other people do and their path. So especially with our community that we had, everyone was so active, and it didn't matter. Like we just spoke about anything and everything, and I took that away, and I could use them skills in real life, and since then my confidence has shot up. It's in fact, people would say that I'm overconfident now, but that's probably spending too much time with you. um, so no, it's good, and I definitely feel that if you hang around with the right sort of people, it will pay off, and yeah, it's just one of the things you've really got to sit there and think, what are you doing? If what you're doing is the right thing, and yeah, it's hard to think of something on the spot and explain, but you've just got to break the habit.
Yeah,
You've got to break it, and at least for me and my experience, if I want to do something, I will make sure that I do it. But it's like a friend at work. He it's really interesting. I take the piss out of him for it. He started to smoke, and he wasn't happy with smoking. So he was like, "Yeah, I really want to quit smoking. So I'm gonna start vaping." I was like, "Okay, yeah, good. It's probably the healthier option. Like, there's no fact about it, but fair enough." And then from vaping, you can start to cut down, and he never used to cut down. He used to get worse, and actually we worked it out. And in terms of the difference between smoking cigarettes and vapes, he was actually smoking uh more shit in the vape than the actual cigarette itself. So I told him to stop. And in fairness, he has slowed down, and he did get to the point where he stopped. But then here comes the issue. So he started to reward himself with cigarettes. So one cigarette turned into two turned into three, and now it's on like 7 or 8 a day. And I keep saying to him, "Look, you're straight back at square one. You've done the hard work. You've stopped. You've stopped from 20, and now you're on 8. So if you've jumped from that half 8 again for 4 day, it's you can do that. You have just got to be so hard on yourself, and then 4 turns into 2, 2 turns into 1, and
yeah,
all of a sudden you've stopped because you haven't got that craving. And I just wish people would have that motivation these days. And yeah, it's hard. Yeah, you go through a lot of pain and suffering, and your body might sort of give you a headache in in response to that. But that's it. Like you've started to smoke, you've done something that's bad, and now your body requires it, and you're trying to make good. It is going to be painful. It's a hard thing to do, but if you're determined, if you've got an iron mindset, then you can do it. It's literally that simple. You've just keep going. Don't quit. Just don't quit. And that's it. That is literally it. Just don't quit.
yeah. It doesn't have to be complicated with cigarettes. I've got exactly
No.
the same problem because a lot of my friends smoke, and uh, it's annoying hanging out with them, right? Because middle of winter and you're indoors, it's nice and warm, and then They're like, we need to go outside for a cigarette. I'm like, I mean, you don't have to. It's not written anywhere. It's not like, then every coffee has to be paired with a cigarette. And the truth is that all the way back in high school, I too smoked cigarettes briefly for about, I want to say, 6 to 8 months. And when you said your friend went back to smoking 7, 8 cigarettes a day, that itself is actually hard to get to. Because I don't know if you've ever smoked a cigarette, but I'd imagine you've tried, and it's not pleasurable the very first time. You're coughing, it's actually a hard thing to do. And you're actually forcing yourself to do something which is a habit that's bad. To get to 8 cigarettes, the amount of nicotine that you put into your body, the amount of smoke that goes into your lungs, the amount of coughing you're going to go through, you're actually doing something that's quite difficult to create a habit. So clearly you have it in you to create a habit. Now, whether you're going to create, this is back to the hammer principle, right? This could be doing push-ups. Because if you take an average person, you tell them, give me 20 push-ups, they're going to come to 5 and stop. Same way that if you give somebody who's never smoked a cigarette, or even better yet, give him a box of cigarettes and they smoke the whole thing, he's going to smoke half a cigarette and be done for because he's going to cough his lungs out. So if you can create that habit, I don't see, if you can get a bad one done, why can't you get a good one done? It doesn't have to be that difficult.
I agree. I completely agree. And turning it back into games as well, you can cut down, and you can. So if you play 12 hours a day, that's a lot. It's a lot of hours. Cut down to 11 one week, and then 10, then 9, then 8, then 7. Slow progress, but it's progress.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the important thing. As long as you're making progress, it doesn't matter how fast or slow it is, you will then, and there's a good comment in chat, you will then find the momentum, and then you'll start breaking these habits, and you the dopamine that you get for breaking these habits is better than instant dopamine that we get from games or anything else that you may consume on the internet. And it's just, once you're exposed to these things, then you start to realize how much of a fool you've taken yourself. And this is the thing, people at school, it's all motivation for young people to do the bad thing, because their parents, that they perhaps haven't had the education, they haven't been taught that actually it's a bad thing, that giving your child McDonald's every week as a reward isn't the best thing to do. And it's I haven't got a kid, I can't tell any parents to do anything that perhaps it's I don't want to tell people how to raise their kids, but if I had a kid, I wouldn't want him to be picking up bad habits and maintain to pick up bad habits. I would like him to sort of understand that there are things in the world that perhaps shouldn't be absorbed, at least not in a large quantity, and teach them that hard work will get you somewhere. And for this, I look up to my grandparents, my nan and granddad, the hard work that they've had to do. So Nan didn't have the best upbringing. Her mum wasn't very nice, and her dad was killed in the war, and granddad lived in a shitty council estate. Since then, they've always been motivated to start a family and to have a nice, happy family, and that is what they've done. And for that, I respect them for that. And Dad, he's kept it on. He's hard working, and his values are in a good place. And for him to be a role model is great. It's a good thing. But now it's my turn. And what can I do? What can I bring to the table? Granddad's pulled the family away from a council estate, and there's nothing wrong with council estates. It's a council estate. There's levels you can move up. Now we're living in a nice area, and there's no crime. What can I bring to the table? What can I offer the next generations of families?
What's the next level, right?
Exactly that. And next level is just simply money now. Like it's that, how hard can I work? How hard will I push myself to make sure that I've got the things that I like? And it's a running joke at work because they're always like, "Oh, just get a girlfriend, get a girlfriend." But it's not as easy as just getting a girlfriend. I want the right person. I want a mother figure. I want someone who can actually bring up children and raise them properly instead of someone who just doesn't really give a shit.
Yeah.
And this is why I'm being so hard on myself, because I want I want the future family of mine and grandkids to be happy, and I want them to look up the family tree and think, oh shit, look at how much progression we've made. And I want them to have the motivation. I want them to carry on and see how far they can take the name. And it's very egotistical to say, but I don't like being normal. I don't like settling for what everyone else has. And there's a photo I keep seeing online how you've got two pathways and you've got a crowd going down one way and you've got the single person going down the other. I'm that single person. I want something else that's different to what everyone has and what everyone wants. My goals aren't exactly the same as what my mates are. And yes, there's compromise. When they want to go out, I've got to stay motivated and stay focused on the goal, stay got the word what it is, but never mind.
Well, discipline mostly, yeah.
Yes, exactly that. And just to keep the long run in perspective, to make sure that what I'm doing is correct. And yeah, once again, I've completely lost my train of thought.
No, you haven't at all. It's because I understand exactly what you mean, and I want to say that when you have those two options, right, where it's you're unique, you're going down your own path, you're crafting your own life, as opposed to doing the norm. I don't think doing the norm is wrong. Some people get the impression that they have to do. Like for most people, I think it's going to work completely fine if they just live their own normal life. But see, I'll give you a weird example because it just bumped into my head. But let's say when I go out there and I buy myself a new bike. Obviously, you can go online or go into a bike store and you buy the bike. And I always thought of it this way. So I go there and I spend my hard-earned money. And then I buy something that everybody else has. Well, I mean, everybody else has access to it. So for me to think that in my town there might be 5 other people that have exactly the same bike, that sort of, it turns me off. What I want is a bike that I know is purely mine. So it's not custom built, but I want something that is unique, something that stands out. And you want the same thing to be also like my CV, for example, because we were talking about stats before. It doesn't have to be material things. It's not just how you dress and what car you're driving. I'm not saying, buy a, BMW and put vinyl wrap over it and custom mod it. But if the option to, you probably don't want to have, I guess in England, they're Vauxhalls, right? You don't want to be just another guy with a Vauxhall. You want to be able, it's not about standing out. It's about living true to like your nature, to your taste. You eat the food you want to eat. You live life the way you want to do it. And again, for some people, they might be uncomfortable with doing that regular thing. Because if you look at the way we play video games, if we have a look at War Thunder, like I was going for a really interesting path. Content creator plus spading everything, and it's a really specific way to play the game. Like my play style was very specific. Your play style was something entirely different. You look at another content creator, entirely different. The average player, he plays his own way, and so I don't think there's a wrong way to play the game, but there might be a wrong way to play the game for your. And then this goes back to I always remember the existentialism. There was these 4 determinants, right? You don't choose who you're born to, when you're born, who you're born as, and there was, I think, and genetic material, right? So you don't, we're both gingers. We didn't choose it. It's not like we spawned into the world and we had the, customize your character. It's everybody just goes to like a boom, random gets pressed, and you just get thrown into the world. And you might be tall, short, you work with what you get. But that's something that gamers should be able to exceed at, right? It's figuring out what the best playstyle is for their character, even though they may not have been able to choose the character's outline.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly. And at the end of the day, the world is your canvas. You can paint it any way you want. And for me, having the motivation, I want it to be the best I can do. And it's that. It's literally that. every generation's gone through shit. Every generation. It's just how you deal with it. I mean, just think of the war and COVID and stuff like that. It it doesn't mean nothing. It's just an event in the timeline now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just you've got to keep moving forward despite what the world throws at you. It's gonna throw you all sort of shit. It's hard. There's a comment in chat that
I was going to say it's like a
literally
patch, right?
yeah,
Yeah, the code was like Gaijin coming in saying, "Oh, it's a patch. Rockets will no longer do the damage." Now, obviously, with Warthog, we have the option to quit the game, right? If you quit life, I don't advise it. I'm not
Yeah,
for
exactly.
suicide,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
you learn how to adapt, right? So you change your play style and you continue thriving.
Yeah, 100%. And the fact that you are literally spawned in on hard mode. You've got to find out for yourself what works and what doesn't. And everything is very black and white, and it's yeah, you've just got to be honest. You've just got to be honest with yourself. Doesn't work? No, it doesn't work. Okay, cool. Let's try something else. You've got so long to live, and in fact, I was taking the dog for a haircut earlier, just before we jumped on here, and I was looking around. There's all these older people thinking, and well, sorry, let me restart. There's all these older people, and I'm thinking, shit, what would they have done if they had the knowledge that I had when they were my age? And would they change anything if they felt differently? If they yeah, it's just even though I want everything now, it's a bit of a greed thing. I want everything now, but I know that over time, things things will come, and they'll come when they're ready. If I got everything now, then one, it wouldn't mean anything, and two, it wouldn't be the same. I haven't worked for it. Whereas in 8, 9, 10 years time, when I look back, when I'm 23 years old, and I think actually shit, I've done the hard work, and I'm proud of myself, and that's it. That is literally it. Are people proud of where they come? If they aren't, how can you make a change? How can you change that and become better? And I think people just got to talk about this more, and the news, they always talk about negative stuff, and there's no need for it. There's absolutely no need for it. At the end of the day, we're all human. We're all here to do one thing, reproduce apparently. It's cool. Let's help each other. Let's stop being so petty, and let's get on with it. And this change of thought process has really sort of helped me understand more about the world. And it's a really scary place. If you go out there and you're not prepared for it, then you are going to get burnt, but you are going to come out the other side of it as a better person. And people should be scared of that. People should look forward to the process. And it's not a day by day thing. You aren't going to get things overnight, but if you keep at it, if you keep working hard, if you're very disciplined in what you do, there's no reason why you can't have these things. And I going back to games once again, I don't think sitting here playing games would be the appropriate thing to do. I think that times change, we need to adapt, and now this is my transition from playing games and actually working hard. It's the ability it's the ability to adapt. And I hope that in 8 years' time I can look back at this video and I can think, shit, yeah, he really knew what he's talking about. And hopefully as other people watch it as well, it will spark a drive in them to become better. And this isn't me trying to tell you what to do. This is me advising what's worked for me.
Yeah. I actually think, and I hope, and you don't take this wrong, I hope that we both look back at this video in 10 years' time and think, God, we were noobs back then.
Yes, I agree.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The same way when I look at my first video and I think, God, that was cringe, but I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
Right. Because it goes back to this. I saw this clip somewhere. I don't know where it was, but it was a guy saying, it's one of those investor, knowing guys, and he said, if you knew that you were like, let's say, 30 failures away from succeeding in a multi-billion online business, how excited would you be for every one of those failures, right? If I told you your dream girl is 25 rejections away, how much pleasure would you derive from every rejection you would get? You know, because I look back and I this ties into Warthorn that I always loved. I sometimes had a dirty pleasure. I would go on Reddit and I would look for people, you know, there's always be these people that would say, oh yeah, I met him in a match once and he died immediately, right? He just failed. And it's, yeah, like you don't become the, you know, a really good person in head-on attacks or long-range rocket snipes if you don't fail a shitload of times. You just have to go through the fail process. But then once you get the hang of it, it's not just better, it's a whole different, you go from one extreme to the other. And I think, you know, there is some of that truth to real life to be had.
Yeah, you can definitely apply the lessons that you learn in games in real life. And I think if you do that, it's a nice pathway to walk across, and for you to be able to compare games to real life, it's good. And I think if more people done that, then 100% the world would be a better place. And it's hard. It is hard. I do get that. I know a lot of people do struggle, but the struggling is the good part. It forces you to take a step back and just think, and that's all you got to do. Just spend an hour every night thinking, and eventually you will work it out. It's one day it will just click, and you'll sit there and think, what an idiot. Like, why didn't I think of that before? And then once it clicks, you just move forward, and the trend turns.
Yeah.
And you can really focus on yourself, and that's all you've got to do. Focus on yourself, because if you apologies, if you focus on yourself, the energy will travel to other people, and people want to talk to you, and you'll find life so much easier. And the whole point of self-improvement is to turn the hard mode into medium and then easy, because once you've got the confidence, once you've gained the skills to do it, everything becomes easy.
Yeah.
Everything's easy once you know what you're doing, and you've just got to learn what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about your first top tier jet match on Korea, you know, when you were flying, I don't know, a stock MiG-9, and then, you know, if you were able to go back into that same match, but with the knowledge you have now, you'd be in a different game, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you start to figure out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And there's a common trend with this whole video, and it's talking about what works and what doesn't. And yeah, no, you are right. Life is just a game. Life is just a game. You just got to play it correctly. You got to learn what works. If you got to change your controls, by all means do it.
Yeah.
Right. Just make it work. Make something work for you. And yeah.
I mean, some people nowadays, they change the character too, you know. So we've moved up a step. There's customizability all over the place.
Yeah. There's that. Not going to comment on that, but you know, so be it.
I was going to ask you a really personal question. All the way back, we spoke about sort of, you know, obviously you've been a moderator, you've been around. You're like I don't want to say a half brother in a way, but you know, everybody here is a big happy family. At least, well, now we're a little bit more apart. It's like, you know, we've grown in our own ways. But what was it like being around me and when I was in my peak time, peak performance, or peak ego? Were there ever any times where you actually, like, you thought to yourself, because I'm assuming, you know, looking back at me now, I did have some moments where I was like very pretentious, very full of myself. Like, were there moments where you were like almost forced to take a step back and think, is this guy in the right? Like, or is he just taking it a bit too far?
Yeah. See, now as soon as you started to say the question, I already knew what I was going to say. The thing of the top 5 people that you hang around, you sort of gain, you gain a little portion of that. I gained a lot of my portion from you and the other mods, because that's who I was talking to. And that's who I enjoyed to hang around, and especially in 2018, I was a little bit egotistical. Cool. Still am. So it's for me, it was about finding the balance once again, finding the balance between what I pick up online and what I do in person. So yeah, everywhere. So I cut my dog earlier. So yeah, it is about finding the balance when you take in content, and it was nice. It was nice to have a community to hang around, and there was a few moments where I thought, yeah, cool, okay, that's a bit weird. Um, not gonna mention any, but if you've been around for long enough, you will remember. Um, it's just it's nice. It's nice to have been a part of the whole process, and hopefully moving forward, we can um, uh, continue the new community. I'm not sure how much you've spoken about this or your
I actually haven't
ideas.
at all. I mean, a lot of people maybe get the wrong impression of what I'm even trying to do here.
Mhm.
Because I too for a minute thought that what I'm doing this year is creating content which would help people to bridge the gaming addiction and break through life. You know, it's like I want to just throw a bunch of ropes and help people go through this. But I realized as I started the year off that what I'm actually doing, these 52 videos that will be uploaded, and this is going to sound very egotistical, but they're for me.
Mhm.
They're me, doing those dots that you mentioned in the calendar, so that at the end of the year, or any portion of the year, I can look back, and these videos can form answers for those temporary moments. When you're on your journey, in your case, your journey is crypto. My case, at the moment, I also haven't spoken about this at all. Well, I have briefly, I think, with Spitfly and maybe with Napalm's Doom Time, but I'm working on creating an English course, and it's my attempt at failure. Is I'm trying to create something that I'm going completely out of my comfort zone. Um, Obviously, it's on one hand I'm doing it because I want to make money, because I want it to be a way to get away from the matrix, right? To escape the rat race, but on this journey that you and I and the rest of us are like, there are these moments where you stop and you think, am I doing the right thing? There are these hiccups, and you lose motivation. It's quick to go back down to the rabbit hole and the darkness of the depression, and I find that I want to have something I can look back at. If I start eating bad food, I look back at the video from 2 weeks ago, and I think, okay, don't eat bad food, because I want it to be. I needed it. Weird as it sounds, I needed something where I can go back and listen to myself, and it's out there on the internet for people to see. Now, whether that helps others, that's great, but this is the issue of helping others until you've already done. I don't think it's fair for me, as I'm on the journey, to tell others how to live their life. Right? I can tell them what I've done, I can tell them what's worked for me, but until I'm, up there, like it's almost like if I told you, when I was grinding for God of War, and I had 15,000 out of the 100,000 kills you need, I can't tell people how to get to God of War. It's really unfair for me to tell others how to do something I've not yet done myself. For you to right now go out there and preach how you're the greatest, mind of cryptocurrency, when you're only really getting started, even though you've been doing it for, what now, two years at least, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's a long time, 2 years. And still, it's nothing in the pond of the big fish who've been at it for, since the day it came out, all the way back in, God knows when, like 2012 or whatever it was, right?
Mhm.
Because we were all around. I heard of Bitcoin when it came out. I was like, this is, just something I'm not interested in. But you look back, the general looking back at the battle, thinking, oh yes, but if I invested it back then, um, I call that the old man if I had the time, if I had done this, if I said that to that girl, if, and that just accumulates and you never get anywhere. And so it's the thing, I once heard Joe Rogan say it, and I flipped it around. He said, I know I'm stupid, and yet I feel smarter, or everybody I talk to seems to be dumber than me, right? Something like that, he said. Like, I feel like I'm not very disciplined, And then I look at the people that are around me and I feel like I'm more disciplined than the majority of them, which makes me want to work harder, right? Which makes me want to kick myself in the arse and create more and strive for that next step. And so for me, what I'm trying to do for now is just get my neck out from the water, from the rapids. And when I'm on safe ground and when I've got an income I'm happy with and when I've got some stability, like true stability, then I want to come back here to this channel and I want to take it to the next level where I can also start pulling people out, anchor type people who've really gone too deep, to give them, maybe coaching or courses or something, reestablish that spark they require, because there is a niche here, there is a market clearly. I mean, if you look at Hamza, if you look at Andrew Tate, if you look at all these content creators, personalities, influencers, they've all gone through it one way or another. You look at their story and it's they weren't born into a rich, happy family and a happy life. They had to work through some really tough life choices. And what I've realized when I've been talking to you here, this podcast, with the exception of this portion right now, is that I've actually forced myself to listen, because I'm used to talking all the time. As a streamer, you don't get to listen. You just talk, and others listen to you and they type in chat. And I want to listen. I want to sometimes just sit in silence, be the dumbest person in the room and just soak like a sponge, soak that information. And then when you're ready, then you can teach others. And there's been a book I've been reading, Ego is the Enemy. Really nice book, and there was this one portion in there talking about a boxer, and he says that one of the greatest things you can do is that everybody's a student at first. Brilliant, that's the book, my man. That is the thing. I don't know if you remember that there was some quote in there. I took a picture of it where he says that first you're a student, then you become the teacher, and as you're teaching, you're also learning more, and then only then you become the master and you start teaching the teachers. And it's this never-ending cycle. You should always be a student. You should always be, the wheel should always turn. It's never going to be enough. It never really should be enough. Not in a materialistical sense, but in the sense that you have to be a little bit more humble. And because for me, that's been the toughest part, has been actually disconnecting from that ego. Because what I've done in War Thunder is I reached a peak of some sort. There was that, the fame gets into your head, the popularity gets into your head. You just call up guys and you're like, hey, I want 50,000 golden eagles. Boom, it's there. You have earned it in a way, but you haven't really worked hard enough for it. So for me to have these conversations with you and hopefully other moderators and other gamers, I want to talk to, the content creators that were around. I want to talk to people I've had drama with, because I'm curious, what the past couple of 3, 5, 7 years have done to our lives. Where have they taken their life path, and how different is it, and what more can we learn from gaming? Because as we spoke here today, gaming influences us often than not in a more beautiful way, in a positive way than a negative way, right? Because you would say that the relationships and the social access that gaming has given you have been probably mostly positive. I don't think either of us look back at War Thunder days and think, oh, besides being a waste of time, it's a time that we enjoyed wasting, right?
100%. 100%. I think it's definitely not a waste of time. It's just something that you do. It's something that you stumbled across and you're curious. And we all started playing War Thunder because we were curious. We were curious what it was like. Because we enjoyed that feeling. We kept going, oh, I wonder what that new plane's like. I wonder how that new tank performs. I wonder how much better I can perform if I have this vehicle, if I have this tank in my lineup. It's curiosity at its absolute finest, and if you're curious about a lot of things and you can really obsess over something, you can really dig deep, and you can really find out a lot about yourself and about the certain subject that you're actually looking into. So I was very interested in history when I was growing up, and this is why War Thunder was perfect for me, because it was a game based on history. It was a it's I'm gonna call it a shooter. It's not by definition a shooter, but it was a fly around and shoot people.
Yeah.
Like that it was the best combination that I could have found. Because of this, I really focused on War Thunder. I was very obsessed with what it done for me. I'm sorry if you can hear the dog.
Yeah, no worries.
But I can really see myself focusing on new things, and trying to develop and learn something new, and really go down that tech tree, and research different things that I'm interested in. And yeah, it's definitely something that you can drag away from War Thunder, and apply it to real life. It's great. It's I think gaming as a, or not necessarily gaming, but socializing, going to play
Mhm.
football, playing games as a young person. I think everyone should do. I don't think you should be locked up specifically in a white. Sorry, let me just assert my dominance in the house. So
Alpha male.
there we go. No, the alpha's the dog. So yes, everything that I can apply from War Thunder playing games, I can apply to real life, and I can use that skill, and I can use that knowledge in order to become better, and just go from there.
He's really lost the plot.
Yeah, he has. And in fact, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna let you take over, so he shuts up.
I'll take it over for a minute. Yeah, absolutely. For me, what also tied in, because you mentioned, being a shooter, is that the shooter part, I think, is why people play CS:GO and Call of Duty, is because you get I guess, the pleasure of killing the enemy. Right, so there's an opponent in the other team, and you know get that sniper rifle, you snipe them from across the map, and there's a sense of superiority, right, and you get that lethargic feeling of winning. But with War Thunder, it was also that combination of history. I was always a fan of aircraft, and to this day, I still get, all giggity when I see a plane flying above my house. And if I ever go to a new environment, and there's like this, I did a lot of driving past this military museum, and I always get excited, because the first thing I see is a Sherman, and then I see a T-34, and then there's a ZSU-57, then there's a T-55, and I see that every time, and I could drive past there for the 10,000th time, and I'm still gonna feel, like, oh, yep, I know with that tank, all the designations, and the the battle ratings are useless in real life, right? But all that information is retained, and it's funny thinking, like, in just War Thunder, how much database we're able to keep in our noggin. And then you get into an environment like school, and you can't seem to hold that same amount of information. So I think we have to learn how to, as you said, everybody should do gaming. Hopefully they choose a game that's actually going to bring them something of substance, and then be able to transfer that addiction to something where they can really just thrive and succeed.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I completely agree with you. It's, once again, it's just another tool. It's another tool, and it doesn't matter how you get there in life. If you are a social person, if you go to the park and socialize, or if you go on the Xbox and socialize with your mates on your Xbox, end of the day, it doesn't matter. They're all skills that you can use in order to progress, and that is the beauty. That is the beauty of it all. It's not a universal thing that everyone must play games. You must go outside. No, it's not that at all. It's just a really nice look. Looking back, it's nice to know that I don't feel like I've wasted time. I enjoyed my time. I enjoyed spending it with the community. I enjoyed playing football outside with my mates also. But it's forged me in a certain way now where I don't think I'd change anything. Um, so like if I was asked if you could change anything, I generally wouldn't. I'm pretty sure that I've done the best I can. There are a few moments where I think, okay, yeah, if I wouldn't have done that, I probably would have saved myself so much time.
Yeah.
Whatever, doesn't matter. We all learn, and because I've learned the mistakes, I'm not gonna do them again. And I'd rather make the mistakes young than not make them at all and struggle in the future. It's the whole point of me working hard now and making sure everything is prepared, ready for the future is purely so my life
Yeah.
when I'm 30, 35, 40 is easier, and I haven't got the struggles like perhaps my parents would um, with maybe money during a recession or something like that. I just want the ability to control my fate,
Yeah.
and especially putting games back into it, having the ability to choose which path you go down, having the ability to choose what you say, um, which direction you travel in. That's practically a good analysis of my life right now. I'd like to have an open world experience and not be drawn down a linear pathway where I have to do this, I
Mhm.
have to do that. I like the idea of having a free world where I can just explore and I can do what I want. But that means sacrifice and that means hard work.
You don't
I
want to
enjoy
be
that.
you don't want to be stuck playing bombers all day long, basically.
No,
Yeah.
that's literally it. That
Yeah.
is literally it. Like if you want to level up your account, then there's nothing that there's no one that says you can't do that. You can't sit in a B-29 at 60,000 meters. Like at the end of the day, you've got all the planes in the world that you can use to research whatever you want, and it's having that freedom. It's having the peace of mind that whatever happens, that you'll be able to adapt quickly, and you aren't going to be drawn down by something unexpected. You can act quickly, and yeah, that was my initial motivation from um from when I first clicked. There was just a click, like I was talking about earlier. It just clicked, and that was my motivation at first. So currently this year I would like I'm just focusing with work. I go to work. If people don't know, I'm a bricklayer. I build houses. I go to work. I work on a house. I come home, have a shower, stuff, and then I work on my own stuff. The brickwork side, I am working extremely hard to find the capital in order to fund um, my portfolio. And once that starts to grow and it starts to outweigh everything, I can then drop work off a little bit. So once I hit a certain point where I'm happy, I could perhaps only do 3 days a week, and then maybe 2 days a week, and then by then it should have worked itself out, and then I will feel happy with where I am. And once I'm at that point, I'll look back. I'll look at how I have done, and I'll think about things that I could change. Think about how I could improve, and at that point, it would be almost a new chapter where things are different. I'm going to have to adapt to new things, new situations. I'm going to be exposed to a lot of um, things I didn't know existed, and yeah, that's the scary thing, but it's the thing that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. So it's
The
going
fact
into the
that
unknown, basically, is what.
yeah, definitely.
I've only got one question before we wrap this one up, and it's a very simple one. Give me 3 goals that you want to achieve by the end of this year.
End of this year. Okay, so I want, without giving a figure away, I want to be able. I want to have reached the point where I've put 75% of what I earn this year away. I want to. My second goal is I want to. Um, I want to. By the time I'm at the end of the year, I want to look back, and I want to make sure that I have worked my absolute hardest, and that I know that there's no way that I. See, I've got to be careful with my words because I don't want to use the wrong word and come off as arrogant. But I want to make sure that what I've done was right. Because once again, going back to what we were saying earlier, if it's wrong, then I need to know what to change. Um, Third goal, it's see now I don't know because I haven't actually thought of goals this year, but I'd like I'd like to have someone about. I would like to meet someone and perhaps think about next steps in life. Because I'm currently living at home, it's the best option for me right now. But I would like to move out, and I'd like to have a bit more independence now. I can move out if I wanted to, but I would be sacrificing something that I'm working hard towards, towards actually getting. So I think perhaps finding that right person. But if it doesn't happen, then go whatever. But it means I'm going to have to go out. It means I'm going to have to socialise, which is fine. That's what I enjoy. So in a sense, it's not really a goal, but it's more of a thought.
Yeah, like a desire. If
Yeah,
it happens, it happens, but you're not putting it as a obligation. So like it has to
yeah.
happen. But if it does, by the end of the year, you'll be happier, regardless. Yeah,
Mm. In fact, I'm going to ask you the same question back.
that's very very good. I'm gonna try to be quick and concise. So for me, the first goal, absolutely start and fully release my courses. I'm first gonna just open it up as pre-sales and actually get the motivation to start creating it because it's quite vast, quite wide. By the end of December, I want to have at least, say, 50% of it made, so that that's something that I can set aside, and it's not a project that's 100% open. Number two, I also have the same position, which is where I still live with my family due to it just being more convenient. Obviously, I do have the option to go on my own, but with pricing, with what that would mean for the savings, the stuff that I can put aside, the stuff that I can work towards my business, that would be a nice thing to expand into. I don't have the issue with the having to go out and search. I have found what I was searching for, but there is the requirement of maintaining it. And I think to maintain a woman, what it takes is to maintain yourself. So I want to tap into my health, which means gym, which means food. I recently went through a surgery. It wasn't like the end of the world, but it was something that was like a quality of life improvement. And I realized that, you only get one health. There's some stuff you can play around with, money you can lose, relationships you can screw up, friendships you can screw up, games you can lose in, but your health is only one. If you're not going to maintain it, if your body you're not going to maintain it, it will be a detriment. So number 300%, tap into that inner beast and just do what I did for a character in a video game, but do it for me in person.
No, that's a real good way of looking at this year, and I think that everyone should have an idea of what they want
Yeah.
and work towards it. And it's that, and it's nice to be able to talk to someone this as well because a lot of my mates they aren't really interested. They like the party life. For me personally, it's just not me. It's not my personality, and it never really has been. So, in order to find something similar that we enjoy, that we do, and it's nice to talk about it. It's yeah, it's good, and it's good for other people too. For the people who are continuing to watch right to the end, there's some motivation. They can there's a comparison. They've been in your steps, they've been in my steps.
Yeah.
What can they do to change? And that's the good thing about this. And this is why I like doing this. It's scary.
It
it's
is.
terrifying. And if you want to do it, by all means, I think that this is the best thing that anyone can do. Just focus on themselves, work towards their body, and go to the gym,
Yeah.
sort your mental health out. Because ultimately, if you can control yourself, then talking to other people and trying to find the perfect partner, that's easy. Because you're confident in yourself. You know what you want. And in fact, you find that they come to you because the energy just gives off. And yeah, it's a nice thing.
Yeah, it just feels right. It's way easier
Yeah.
to figure it out then when you know exactly what you want. Because what's happening is that you're on a path, right? I once described it as when I was lost, when I was in depression or whatever. It's like you're sitting in a car and you're driving around a roundabout, and there are millions of roads to choose from, but you're stuck. And it is difficult today because in just regards to dating, I was talking to my grandmother, and she doesn't understand how, back in her day, you'd meet somebody, and that was pretty much it. They get married within a couple of months. They'd be sending letters to each other. She doesn't understand how, with the use of a mobile phone, you get to send a letter to 1,000 women like that. And it's, the game has changed. There's a new patch out there, and
It's almost meaningless.
yes.
That's the thing, because you've got so much of it. Meaningless. Because people can literally go on Instagram, they can pull up their DMs, especially women, men not so much, women definitely. They can pull up their DMs and they've got 20 blokes lined up for her.
Yeah, all the time.
She can
always.
select any one of them. The men is a bit different. You've got to be worth something, and in order to be worth something, you need to work, and you must never give up. And if this is the one thing that someone takes away from this, don't give up. Just do not give up. Just give up War Thunder.
Yeah.
Don't give up.
I absolutely agree.
It's
Yeah.
not good for you. It's not good for you. But yeah, if you're confident in yourself, if you believe in yourself, then ultimately you will get what you want.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. If you want women, then go to the gym, work out. You will get women. If you want money, talk to people with money, because they're everywhere. It's not a hard thing to get, and I always thought it was. If you want fame, you've got TikTok. The tools are out there. You just gotta fucking do it, and that's the thing. It's scary. The world's a scary place, but it shapes you. It shapes you to be the best person that you can be, the best version of yourself. And there's plenty of influencers out there that people can watch and learn off. And that's how I started. I just stumbled across it, and once again the curiosity got the best of me. And luckily it was for the best. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, and I'm glad I did. I'm glad I done it, because if I didn't do it, I could potentially be in the same endless loop, pressing that 2 battle button and actually not doing anything.
Yeah.
Thinking that I'm making progression, because it's false dopamine. You haven't actually done anything, because you've got the new BF 109 G14. Cool. Like, what have you got to show for it? All that time that you've spent, what have you actually done? And in fact, this is one of the things in the university that they done an AMA, which is like a podcast. People who are still here, just take your time and think about anything that you do, any hobbies, if it's work, if it's music, if it's football, if it's airsoft, if it's rugby, if it's cricket, I don't care. Think of something that you're top 1% in. Now, this is easy because there's 8 billion people on the planet, but something that you're top 1% in, and then think, how do I get to the top 0.1%? How do I get to the top 0.001%? Because that's where it becomes elite. And you've got to, like, for example, you were top 1% in War Thunder. You were probably top 0.01% in War Thunder.
Thanks.
if you put that effort
Yeah.
into something that means something, think of what you can do. You can do anything that you want, and it's just that click. And I hope that this video is the catalyst for that click for a lot of people.
And if it's not, it's
Yeah,
going to come. Like, inevitably,
it,
it's going to come. Hopefully sooner than later, but there's going to be a moment in your life where you're going to turn back, you know, look over your shoulder, you're going to just think, oh, shit, now I got to do it. You know, is that like, it's a do or die moment almost. It's just when you just know you have to do it. And at that point, it becomes easy. But that's why we keep saying people, you know, you got to do it now when it's still hard. Precisely so that you don't have to go through that hard moment. But I think regardless, both of us are going to have more of these moments, right? I think both of us are going to have moments. Like maybe, you know, you're going to have a moment with crypto where you're like, oh, wait a minute, this actually really wasn't that good of an idea. And maybe you're going to do a complete 1080, you're going to go in a different direction. You never know, right? But you're keeping this, on one hand, you have an open mind, right? You're thinking with a filter, with all the information you receive, you look at it at face value and you do your research. You're like, okay, so this is healthy information, this is going to be detrimental information, and then you make with that goodness. You know, you do well with that tool, right? You get the hammer, and then you find the right nail to smash in, not just smashing everything in your way, right?
yeah. No, that is it. And these little quotes keep picking up along the way, and eventually, I will use them like I have today. And you don't realize you're full of all this information. You just need to know when to apply it, and all these things that are online, they're all tools, and you just need to learn when to apply them. Once you know how to apply them, you can adapt to change quite quickly, and if you can adapt to change quickly, then you're gonna succeed. And for example, War Thunder, once again, if there's a change, you adapt, you change something, and you carry on. You may have a little bit of drawdown, but I think coming away from this video, I'm going to explore the possibilities of tracking how I feel. If I can do that for a year, and if I can see the trend, I can almost identify where things are going right and where things are going wrong. This is for me like that clicking moment. Perhaps more people should do this. More people should track their happiness. So when things are a bit out of trend, you're able to spot that and reflect on them moments. So yeah, I think I'm definitely going to do that. I think I'm going to do that.
Great. I'm going to wrap it up with this here. Thank you so much for joining me. This was an absolutely wonderful conversation. I hope the people who are live, obviously we're streaming this on Twitch. Live is going to go on YouTube in a couple of days. Thank you for being here. I'm sure you're going to be back on, maybe even this year, because I love talking to you. I love seeing the progress. I love keeping in touch, and I hope you had a great time.
Thank you. No, it's been really nice. I've been looking forward to this for ages. In fact, we even spoke about doing this live, which I'm always up for doing. But yeah, no, thank you for having me on. It's nice to have another big lengthy chat. But for me, it's back to work.
And for me, it's also back to work. The weekend
I've got
might
a
be
lot
the
of things
weekend,
to
but
do.
we have to. It's always head down at work. You know, every day's got
100%.
24 hours, and it's how you distribute them that will show at the end. So thank you, and goodbye.
Thank you.